Hello YouTube! This is Falcon Paladin coming to you with yet another Blizzard upload. Today I'm going to show you a Starcraft 2 replay between two professional Starcraft 2 players. This is Life versus MMA. Zerg versus Terran is one of my favorite matchups in Starcraft 2, just because it tends to go back and forth. Terran puts early pressure on Zerg. If they can hold it off, then Zerg will have the upper hand. And Zerg usually employs a Mutalisk, Baneling, Zergling type army, which does a good job countering pretty much everything that Terran likes to do. The Banelings do a good job of exploding and killing a lot of the infantry type units that the Terran are making. Mutalisks can kill anything that can't shoot up at them because they are flying units. And then the Zerglings can clean up pretty much everything else as long as they can get in close. So we'll see what strategies are employed by these two players. This is MMA, one of the more famous players of all time in StarCraft 2. He's been playing for several years now, has won many tournaments. And this is from a tournament back in November, so it's a little bit old, but I've been trying to find some newer replays and having a hard time doing that. So I'll keep my eye out over the next couple days and see what I can find. Now another strategy that Terran can go is called mech. They just make a lot of units that are mechanical. Tanks and Vikings and Ravens and Thors and Hellions. These kind of things are very strong. They have good AoE attacks, area of effect, can do a good job against kind of squishy Zerg units that come in numbers. So there are some strategies that Zerg can do to counter this as well, and we'll see which each player decides to do here. Now it looks like Life is coming out and doing a 15 hatchery, which means he gets 15 supply or 15 units. Then makes a hatchery even before he gets his spawning pool, which we talked about last time is required to make Zerglings and Queens and Spine Crawlers. This is pretty safe against Terran to do this. There isn't much that the Terran can do early on to do much harassment against against the Zerg player. So you'll see this in a lot of ZBT matches. And there goes the spawning pool at 14, you'll notice, or 15 I guess. He went 15 hatchery, 15 pool. So he is playing a little bit more macro style. He wants to get his economy up more quickly. Maybe he knows that MMA's style is not to put that early pressure on. Although MMA is making an early Reaper. Now Reapers can jump up and down cliffs. They regenerate life quickly when they're out of combat. We saw them in the 3v3 game that I posted last week, or was that earlier this week? I can't remember. And so we'll notice that the rally point for this Reaper is set all the way down here. Oh, yep, to exactly where the Zerg hatchery and the expansion is being built. So here comes the Reaper. You'll notice they are pretty quick little units there. And there we go. Passes that watchtower, briefly does a quick scout around to see if there's anything interesting going on, and there's not. So here comes the Reaper. We're going to see if he can do any damage before Life can defend. He's going to go right after these juicy workers, and some slow Zerglings pop out. Now remember, slow Zerglings are pretty terrible at killing Reapers because they are slow, Reapers are fast, Reapers are ranged, which means they can get back and shoot and back and shoot and pretty much kill an infinite number of Zerglings if the Terran player knows what they're doing. And trust me, MMA knows what he's doing. So he's putting on this harassment, and he already has 2 kills there. But then the Queen comes out, and the Reaper knows that, alright, that avenue of attack is not so, not going to be productive anymore. It's going to hop up this cliff, and hop up that cliff, and come into the main of Life. Regenerate a little bit of health. You'll see that climbing as he's not in combat right now. Ooh, gets a free drone pickup that happens to be transferring between bases at this point. So now he has 3 kills. What they like to say in StarCraft 2 is, does the unit pay for itself? Did making the unit and spending the resources on it really pay off in the sense that it killed enough of the enemy units to be worth it? So I think the answer there is it's pretty close, might be even at this point. Life doesn't feel too threatened here. He's making another base, a 3rd base. Meanwhile, MMA has his expansion up and going. He has some Marines out. They're killing these destructible plates. These are placed in the game to prevent Protoss players from putting 3 pylons at the base of a Zerg player's ramp and trapping them inside their own main base. It was a very frustrating strategy for Zergs to deal with. It seemed a little overpowered, and so So Blizzard put up those plates in order to prevent that from happening. We have some Hellions out on the field. They use an Infernal Flamethrower to do damage in an area of effect attack that goes straight out from them. And it has extra damage versus light units, which again are Zerglings and drones for Zerg. So that is a pretty effective against a Zerg who lets you inside their base. But it looks like Life has 3 queens out 7 minutes into the game. Now, queens are not light units, and so these Hellions and these Reapers don't do very much damage to them. The queens have a ranged attack, which means they can fight back just as easily as they can be attacked. And they also have 1 armor base, which makes them even harder for those units to kill. So here comes some more pressure. It looks like MMA is just waiting for Life to send out some Zerglings, maybe do some scouting, and they could be picked off out in the open here by these Hellions and this Reaper. They're also interested in killing these creep tumors, which the queens lay and help spawn creep. Again, creep is useful for Zerg because it gives them a speed bonus if they're on it, and it also gives them vision. So anything that is purple here, the Zerg can see, even if they don't have a unit nearby. So the Terran player is interested in keeping this creep back as far as they can. Zerg wants it expanded. Here comes a Viking. It can only attack air units while it's in the air, and it can transform down here to an assault mode, which means it can attack ground. But it has a pretty weak attack when it's in assault mode. Pretty much Vikings in this particular matchup are only interested in killing overlords, which prevents scouting from the Zerg and also take away supply for the Zerg. These guys are farms. They provide food, and they are what allow Zerg to make more units. And MMA, being the pro that he is, knows he can kill off that overlord while being hit by the queen and escape with its life intact. In Starcraft 2, oh, here we go, back at the front, here comes an attack from MMA. He's got, these are Hellbats, which are transformed Hellions, and they do a lot of damage against light units as well. These Marines in the back do damage against everything. These Zerglings aren't really going to stand a chance here. Life is just doing what he can to delay this attack and keep it from getting into the mineral line and killing too many workers and destroying his economy. So it is pretty nip and tuck at this point. More and more Zerglings are coming out. Oh, and MMA picks everybody up in his medevac, which can not only transport units, you'll see there are transports inside, it can also heal units that are on the ground. It doesn't heal units that are inside, they have to be on the ground for that healing to work. So he drops in the mineral line here to hopefully kill some drones of Life's, and when the defense comes, just picks up and runs away. Yep, drops him on the ground here to heal up. In the meantime, Life should be spreading his creep. You'll notice that this creep tumor is purple, a light purple. These are dark purple, which means they haven't, these have already been used to expand the creep. They cannot expand it anymore. And there we go. Now these ones turn light purple to push the creep out further towards MMA's base. So if we take a look at the income, Zerg has 63 harvesters to Terran's 47, which again, a good Zerg player can do this. They can hold off early attacks from Terran and Protoss and also get their economy up and running to the point that they have 3 basically fully saturated bases at 11 minutes, even with all the harassment that Terran has been putting on them. So that's something I'm interested in learning how to do. We notice a medevac coming out with 4 Hellions. It's kind of sweeping along this left side. And it looks like, according to the direction it's heading for Life's main base. Life does have an Overlord sitting out here, which means it can see any drops that come through this part of space, but nothing down through this area. So this drop is coming in. We have another medevac and a few units. Marine, a Hellbat, 2 more Marines, getting healed up by this medevac as well as it can. This drop's coming through, and Life sees it immediately. I don't know how he knew that was coming. It's just a second or a sixth sense that a lot of pro players have, as they can tell when drops are coming. They just catch the slightest glimpse of red on the minimap and they go take care of it. These Zerglings aren't really planning on doing much damage. They're just scouting around to see where MMA's army is. They know that MMA has taken a 3rd base here. Now again, Zerg players want to be 1 base up on Terran and Protoss at all times. So Zerg has 3 bases, Terran has 3 bases. It's a pretty scary position for Zerg to be in. But he has spread the creep out pretty far, almost halfway across the map. And MMA knows as soon as he sets foot on this creep, Life knows he's coming. So what he's going to do is do a scan to take out these creep tumors because they are burrowed and invisible to enemy units. And here come the Mutalisks, the Zerglings, and the Banelings. And we'll see what Life can do here with this attack. And he brings in the Banelings, gets a couple nice hits off. They actually do splash damage, AoE damage, extra damage to light units, which Marines are, and Hellions are, I believe they are light. These Marines are attacking anything that can't attack up. I'm sorry, the Mutalisks are. And there is a small army left for MMA, but he knows he has to get in there and do some damage or else he's in big trouble. So he's pushing forward with this small attack anyway, healing up at the Zelnaga Watchtower, which gives him good vision, lets him know if there's a Zerg army coming, and this 8 health Viking is in the fight too, from earlier killing that Overlord. Oh, it looks like Life did take his 4th base right here, so it is 4 bases to 3. We have another defense coming up from Life. He's using his Mutalisks to focus down enemies. The Baneling hits are coming in, but there are too many Marines, and Life has to retreat. So Mutalisks, like all Zerg units, have the ability to regenerate when they're out of combat. Mutalisks can regenerate a little more quickly than other Zerg units when they're not fighting, so they're good harassment units to get in there and fight, get down to low health, fly away, regenerate, come back in, fight again. So these Mutalisks are sweeping around, maybe going to try to go into MMA's base and do some mineral line harassment to kill some of his workers for a change. We have a drop sweeping along the right side, which these Zerglings might have seen, although depending on if the medevac was on the high ground, they might not have. So Mutalisks come in, try to take out this missile turret that is in the mineral line to defend against this very thing, and he is able to get... No, he's not able to get the missile turret. The SCVs are repairing it, all of them repairing it at once, and their repairing is enough to fight through the damage the Mutalisks are doing, and they are able to drive the flock off. Now the Mutalisks do have a bouncing attack, so they attack a primary target, and then their glaives also attack a second and a third target with less damage, but it still does do something of a multiple-pronged attack. So they did get some SCV kills there. Looks like each Mutalisk has 1 or 2, and depending on what other fights they've done previously, it might even be more than that, or less than that in that particular attack. Swing on here into the second base, and then swing back out. And now what they're worried about here are Widow Mines. Again, those Widow Mines sit in the ground, they're invisible. Every 30-60 seconds or so, the Widow Mine can do a splash damage attack, and they will take out a Mutalisk flock with 1 or 2 hits, just that easy. So here Life is on the offensive. He is pushing up that ramp. He wants to get in there and get rid of MMA's 3rd base because he knows a 3-base Terran is pretty terrifying. He's making more Banelings down here. His upgrades are good. He has 2 Carapace and 2 attack on those Banelings and Zerglings. His Mutalisks have 1 attack and no armor. Now, professional players understand that it can be good to get 3 armor, which is the max. Other times it may not be cost effective to get 3 armor on particular units, so they won't do that. So I assume Life knows what he's doing by not doing the upgrade for his Zerg Flyer Carapace. MMA is just kind of hemmed in his base at this point. He has a good standing army. He's got a Thor, which does really well against Mutalisks that are clumped up with its splash damage. Life comes around, just gets his Zerglings right up into the base, brings the Banelings in behind him, and catches some transferring SCVs there and is able to kill those workers. The Mutalisks come in trying to take out that Thor because it's the biggest threat to them. And does manage to pick off the Thor. The Mutalisks are all pretty much still alive, and they back out because, again, they're worried about Widow Mines, they're worried about the few Marines that are left, and just waiting for reinforcements. So the Widow Mines are burrowing at the front lines, but Zerg player has an Overseer with him, which is a flying unit that lets him see invisible units. They're able to take the Widow Mines out. MMA does go down to Life. Life has pretty much locked down this 3rd base. MMA could have fought on for a little bit longer, but his harvester count was 78 to 48. Life had almost 30 more workers than he did. Life was taking yet another base, and 5 base Zerg to 2 3-base Terran just is not fair for anybody. So I hope you enjoyed that professional StarCraft 2 cast. Again, this is something I'd like to be able to do one day as a Zerg player, but for now, it's just practice makes perfect. If you liked what you saw, hit that like button, hit subscribe. I do videos every single day of Blizzard games. And you can like me on Facebook too at facebook.com/FalconPaladin, and my Twitter account at twitter.com/FalconPaladin. You could have guessed. Anyway, follow me on those social media sites, and until next time, you take care of yourself.